Hey guys, what's up? My name is Anthony and welcome to another video. So usually what people do is they propose college football new playoff schedules, but now I'm going to do that in reverse. I thought it would be pretty fun. Let's just see how it turns out. It's going to be fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rank every single team that would qualify for the college football playoff, not playoff, but a bowl game. And we're going to rank the top four and say they made the college football national championship. And the other ones, we're going to see where they would play in each other's bowl games. And we're basically going to see what bowl games are based on what the team is most similar to. Again, I'm not a professional college broadcaster, or I don't really know a lot about college football, but I have a general idea of how these teams play. So I'm just going to not wing it, but I did some prior research and some of my background information. And we're going to see how it would play out if college football was in the NFL, or they had the same system. So let's see how it would work out. So first, my power rankings, I had the Saints. They were really strong towards the end of the year. They kind of tailed off, but going into the playoffs, they were pretty much the favorite to make it. This team reminds me a lot of Clemson in the fact that they had a lot of wins. The Saints would have been 14-2 if they would have played their last game seriously. The same thing with Notre Dame. They went 12-1, but they didn't have the hardest schedule, they didn't have the easiest schedule, kind of mid-tier. They won their big games, and they had their head coach was known for being really good. You have Kelly, and then you have Peyton, both quarterback. I think they're both Irish. So there's that. Yeah, the Fighting Irish and the actual Irish and Sean Payton. Nothing too much reminds me of the teams, just kind of how their season went. Next, we have the Patriots. They remind me of Alabama. One, because everyone hates them. Two, their coach. You have Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, both defensive-minded. Don't really have a lot to do with the offense. Kind of make that, hopefully they do their own thing. You have an offensive coordinator that does their own thing. They both have high turnover rates in their, in their front office. Like, defensive coordinators leaving. So it's kind of tough for them, but yeah. Next we have the Rams, who remind me a lot of Georgia. No, not because of Todd Gurley. Because Jared Goff and Jake Fromm have similar skill sets. They win the games they're supposed to win. They're kind of a force on defense. You have DeAndre Baker, who I don't think let up a touchdown in his 2 years that he was there. Kind of a strong identity. Don't know a lot of players on Georgia. I'm not going to lie and pretend like I know. And then Rams defense, again, strong at the corner position. Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, kind of veteran leadership there. And just a physical force on defense. So next, for number 4, we have the Chiefs, who the obvious comparison is Oklahoma. So I don't think I need to explain it that much. Smart offensive coach, kind of weak defense. It kind of lets them down. And the offense has to overachieve. Next, we have the Bears. I rank the Bears. So I have the Bears compared to Florida. Yeah, my Gators. Both of them I like. Bears were kind of my team last year. I'm not sure if this year. I think it's more towards the Lions this year. Anyway, so Florida kind of have a quarterback. Felipe Franks and Mitch Trubisky actually remind me a lot of each other. They both have to be surrounded with good pieces. Both can run. Both are not... they both shouldn't run, but they're like the new future of like a quarterback that has that run threat, kind of like a Josh Allen type guy. So they both had a really, really strong defense, and both went from like worst to first. Like the Florida Gators didn't even qualify for a bowl game last year, and all of a sudden this year they were in contention for a playoff spot. Yeah, so number 6 we have the Chargers, who actually reminded me a lot of Kentucky, how historically they were not that good. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, they have a good season this year. Whether I'm not sure what it was for Kentucky. I mean, they did have Josh Allen, I guess Joey Bosa, kind of a strong defense, be able to create pressure, and in a division that's historically good elsewhere with like the Raiders and the Broncos, they ended up performing pretty well. Next, we have the Texans, who remind me a lot of Clemson, not because they won every single game, but because Deshaun Watson used to play for Clemson. See the thing? No. This reminds me a lot of Deshaun Watson's teams. You have some physical beasts on defense. Dexter Lawrence, Cleveland Farrell, kind of a strong defensive line. J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, that type of thing. And then you have the offensive line, which is not that strong. You're not really known for offensive line that much. And the quarterback kind of has to make plays and do his own thing. But, they both started the season pretty rough. It wasn't that the Clemson lost a lot of games, it's just that they were tight in a lot of games. And towards the end of the season, they got their momentum. And, that's why Texans remind me of Clemson. Next, we have the Cowboys, who remind me of Ohio State. They're both that classic team that's always there every single year. Have the historic, not the greatest coach. The coach actually retired, but that defense, really strong defense. Then you have a quarterback that is learning, pretty young. They both remind me similar skill sets. Not really a running quarterback. The offensive line does its job. And the wide receivers, especially later in the season, Dallas, they kind of had that. They had really good wide receivers towards the end. I think they all started to work together with decent wide receivers that are fast and quick. Didn't really have a lot of big guys, but now they do. And like Jason Witten, they have those guys this year again. But yeah, so Cowboys remind me a lot of Ohio State. We have the Colts, who remind me a lot of Texas A&M. Quarterback, old faithful, reliable, kind of conservative type. New coach. I don't really know a lot about Texas A&M. Just average, ascending. And next year will be their year, kind of like with the Bears in Florida. Next we have Ravens, who remind me a lot of LSU. Why they remind me a lot of LSU? Mainly the quarterback, Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Don't really turn the ball over a lot, but under pressure in big games, didn't really perform that well, especially LSU against Alabama. They got shut out. Both kind of shrink in big moments. Lamar Jackson, not towards the end of the season, he played well, but in the playoffs, he kind of was shell-shocked. But they can get you into games late. Both kind of unconventional guys. Don't really throw interceptions, don't really turn the ball over, and both kind of lifted by the defense. But yeah, if I had to compare the Ravens to anybody, it would be the 2007 Gators with Tim Tebow, but whatever. Next, we have the Steelers, who remind me a lot of Missouri. You have, obviously, Drew Lock and Ben Roethlisberger, both experienced quarterbacks at the time. Same team throughout their entire careers. Drew Lock has only played for Missouri 4 years, but you get the point. As far as touchdown to interception ratio, very similar. I'm not comparing quarterbacks, I'm comparing teams too. Missouri, not the most talented team. I think the Steelers are relatively, comparatively a more talented team than the Steelers. But Missouri, kind of that classic Mizzou down south. Pittsburgh kind of has that, but up north. You have a nice fan base, similar seasons that, you wish it could have gone better, but you did pretty good anyway. The Steelers kind of wish they won the playoffs. You had some big game wins, but you also lost some big games too. The Seahawks remind me a lot of West Virginia. Quarterbacks are similar. Will Grier, Russell Wilson, both use their legs. Russell Wilson has a little bit of a stronger arm. As far as their seasons go, West Virginia didn't really win the big games that they needed to. Neither did the Seahawks. They didn't beat the Cowboys in the playoffs. The Seahawks didn't beat... they had one big game. Well, they did beat the Chiefs and the Vikings in their primetime games. They did well in primetime, but it just wasn't good enough to beat the Rams in the division. And same thing with West Virginia. They just were this inferior team in that division. Next, we have the Titans, who remind me of Michigan. Shea Patterson, Marcus Mariota. We're going to the quarterbacks first again. Both kind of underperformed this year. Underwhelming. They're underwhelming quarterbacks. You have a pretty good head coach in John Harbaugh, and the Titans head coach, I forget, but he's the Bill Belichick disciple. They kind of let the offense do its own thing. Kind of a physical team. You have that physical you have the physical Michigan Wolverines defense. You have that physical Titans defense. Both are trying to create a culture. Jim Harbaugh has underperformed just a little bit. So have the Titans. You kind of wish they would have won the division or made the playoffs, but unfortunately that last game they couldn't get it done, kind of like what Michigan did against Ohio State. Next up, the Eagles. They kind of remind me of Northwestern. I don't really know a lot about Northwestern. All I know is somehow at 6-4, they made it to the Big Ten championship and somehow faced Ohio State, where they got rocked. But the Eagles didn't really get rocked. It's just that, like, oh wait, they're here. Like, I don't know. They don't really remind me. It's kind of hard to find an Eagles comparison. Like, oh, which team? I was going to say Alabama, how, like, Tua came in and then won the championship, kind of like what happened with the Eagles. But I don't think that's a fair comparison. Actually, no, it is a pretty fair comparison now that I'm thinking of it. But Alabama being ranked all the way down here where the Eagles are, that would be a pretty interesting comparison to see Eagles and Alabama. That would be it. But the closest I can find, I don't really know a lot about other teams. So Northwestern kind of is like, how are they there? That type of thing. Next we have Vikings, who remind me a lot of Washington. One, because I had to pick a Pac-12 team to fit into a bowl game. And two, Jacob Eason and Kirk Cousins. You're kind of expecting more. You're waiting for them to pop. You're waiting for them to win that big game. Washington, they started their season off. They lost to Auburn. The Vikings start off the season kind of good, and then they lost to the Buffalo Bills. Like, you can't lose those games. And they had a pretty good defense, Washington. They had all the tools to succeed, and they down the home stretch they played pretty well, but in the beginning of the season it wasn't good enough for them to overcome that at the end. Then the Browns UCF, I think, is the perfect comparison. Like how the UCF went undefeated and they're like, oh, we're national champions. The Browns win 7 games and like, oh yeah, we're national. They're like having parades and stuff and celebrating the new quarterback, new everything. Not really the same with like as far as the quarterback scenario, the Mackenzie Milton, Baker Mayfield. Actually, no, they both run. They're both kind of cocky. I like their Mackenzie Milton's a little more humble. But kind of like the whole fan base where it's just like, we're the underdogs, that type of thing, and people are rooting for them. But then there's the other people like, come on, you guys, you know. So yeah, those are my teams. That's what I think of them. And now let's see how the playoffs would have went. So starting off with the Sugar Bowl, we have number 1 Saints versus the number 4 Chiefs, Oklahoma. I actually have Oklahoma winning that game. I think that this would have worked in college football too. The Saints. Yes, but towards the end of the season, they really just couldn't pull some games together. It's not a home field advantage either because it would be played in wherever the Sugar Bowl is played. So I have the Chiefs winning that one, or Oklahoma. Then the Orange Bowl is the Patriots versus the Rams. I have the Patriots winning that one because the Patriots beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. And Alabama, I think, would beat Georgia like they did in college football, even though it would probably be a close game. I don't know. But anyway, national champion. Patriots or Chiefs, and I would have to pick the Patriots because they beat the Chiefs twice. It's hard to think. I swear the Chiefs beat the Patriots that second time. For some reason, my memory is like, yeah, the Chiefs won the rematch, but they didn't. So yeah, the Patriots would be national champions. Alabama would beat Oklahoma like they did in the college football playoffs. Next, we have some bowl games. So let's just go one by one. The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl would be the Bears versus the Vikings. The Bears versus the Browns. Sorry, not the Bears versus the Vikings. The Bears versus the Browns in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. I would have the Bears being the Browns. Sorry, I think just the Bears are the better team. I don't think the quarterback is that much of a mismatch, and they win coaching. So yeah. Next we have the Rose Bowl. It's a rematch. Ohio State versus Washington. Well, that's what actually happened. Cowboys versus Vikings. Cowboys, I think, would win that game because Dak shows up in primetime games. Shows up in big games. And yeah, so next we have the Colts versus the Eagles, Texas A&M versus Northwestern. I'd have Texas A&M. They're the more well-rounded team. They have to play harder teams throughout the year. I think they're younger. I think they're better. Colts are ascending. Even though the Eagles aren't the best comparison to Northwestern, I still think the Colts win that game. Next we have the Citrus Bowl with the Chargers versus the Titans. The Kentucky versus Michigan. I think this would go the same way for both. Not really. I'm not sure. I think Michigan would win the actual college football. But we have I think the Chargers would win that game because they're just the better team. There's nothing much to be said. I think they have the better quarterback. They have the better coaching. They have the better defense. They have. They would be hungry to win that game. They would want something. They would want a better recruiting class. Next, we have the Liberty Bowl. This one, I had to pick some certain teams. I had to pick some certain bowls because the certain bowls have different rules and stuff. So I had Steelers versus Seahawks. I would actually have the Seahawks win that one. The worst team in my rankings would win that game. I think the Seahawks would just outgun them. Russell Wilson would use his legs. The Steelers do have a good pass defense with T.J. Watt. And I just think that the Seahawks would find a way to win this game. Yeah, and that's pretty accurate too. Clemson versus the Ravens for the Fiesta Bowl. I have the Texans beating the Ravens. Well, Clemson would beat LSU in my opinion. You have the better quarterback. Deshaun Watson, I think, is better than Lamar Jackson. I think he's just a better version of Lamar Jackson. He's Lamar Jackson, but he can throw. Lamar Jackson has a little bit better running skills. I still think they're about even in that. The Texans have a little bit of an inferior defense, but I think that Deshaun Watson is more of a winner than Lamar is. So Deshaun Watson hasn't won a playoff game yet. Now I'm thinking about it. Neither has Lamar Jackson. I think the coaching edge has to go to the Texans. As much as I like John Harbaugh, he hasn't really won much in recent years. And you have less experience. So I was thinking so much into this. I might do this next year or something. Maybe like 1 plays 16, 2 plays 15. Like do 2 layers. Like what if we did college football, but in the NFL, but the way that we want college football to be? So we do like a 16-team playoff. You guys can work this out in your heads and see which teams. I think it's fun. I'm not a professional college football analyst, so I don't know, but it was definitely fun making this video to see how the thing would have worked out. So to recap, the Patriots were national champions, and we had a lot of bowl winners. So everyone goes out happy going into the draft. I wonder how the draft would work then. Would you have like the team that win the bowl games like worse, like ranked? Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I was just thinking about it in my head. How would you have the draft rankings? Or would you do recruiting? Or would you not even have a draft and just do complete recruiting and you'd have like a scholarship thing? I don't know. But yeah, all of it's fun and games. Let me know what you guys have, what your guys' team comparisons are and why, and who you have winning each game. And I think it'll be fun. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.